Welcome to the Newtown Big Dreams podcast, an interview-style talk show that's your gateway to the fabulous and fascinating people who relocated to start a new life. Whether you're new to our podcast or your city, our fellow neighbors from across Canada, North America, and the entire English-speaking world share their stories of reaching new horizons and big dreams. So sit back and relax as we navigate in-depth and intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, executives, creatives, and anyone who can share their story about their Newtown big dreams. And now, here's your host, Luke J. Menkes.
Regina, thank you for coming in to talk to us today.
You're welcome.
You've been in Kelowna for over 20 years.
Yes.
I think it was 1996, you said?
That's right, yes.
And tell us the story of how you got to Kelowna.
Okay. Well, I was dating a really nice man then, and he's actually originally he's from Kelowna, and his family and friends were all here. So he decided to relocate back to Kelowna, and I followed him.
And where did you meet?
In Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I've never heard of Kelowna. I've never been here until, that point. I arrived and I saw the lake, I saw the mountains, and I fell in love, and I knew this is home.
Nice. That's awesome. Now, were you doing the same type of business in Vancouver?
No, actually, I was in marketing, advertising.
Okay.
And I was actually dabbling between that, and I was working at a group home for adults with mental disabilities and also physical challenges. So I was kind of a caregiver.
I see. Was that a separate job, or was it volunteer?
That was a separate job. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
when I came to Kelowna, I found a position with Kelowna District Society for Community Living, and basically they also had a group home, and also I was a job coach. So I would be going into different locations to assist individuals to learn job skills and life skills.
Right.
Yes.
And did that, working with people, did that lead into becoming a holistic wellness practitioner?
Yes, absolutely.
Was it your love of people, I'm guessing? That...
Yes. I've always been passionate about wanting to help people. And growing up, I thought, well, I was going to be a doctor or a social worker or a counselor. Right. And I didn't know exactly how that was going to manifest, myself. And basically working with people that have different, I guess, diverse abilities, allowed me to be their voice. I had to be very sensitive as to what they're thinking, what they're feeling. I have to almost be able to read their minds. And I was the liaison between them and, let's say, the manager or the staff, within the job site. And if they're not able to express those, their needs verbally, I will have to pick them up through the emotions, for example, and the body language.
And did you notice early on that you had an intuition for being able to read people emotionally and through body language?
That's a very good question. I never really analyzed it and thought of it that way, but I think I did.
Yeah.
I did. I was quite sensitive growing up in a household that I needed to, tune into body language and read people's emotions and what's behind the words, for example. So that kind of gave me, I guess, a good training for, becoming empathic and intuitive, all of those.
Was there a point in time where you said, I don't want to be in marketing anymore. I'm going to exclusively work with helping people? Do you recall when that happened?
It has always been on my mind that regardless of what my career would be, it would, it will always be people oriented to be of service.
So when did you make the switch?
I think when I was in university, I switched from business administration to psychology.
I see.
And it fascinates me studying psychology, human behaviors and how they think and how the cognitive brain works, the subconscious and conscious, all of those things. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That's interesting. So you see a connection between psychology and physical health as
absolutely.
well. Tell us a little bit about that. What, because in the Western world, we tend to think like you have symptoms and then you treat the symptoms.
That's right. Yes.
And I think we're starting to understand that's not really the best way to treat human beings. But tell us the connection between psychology and physical health.
Yes, for sure. So studying psychology allowed me to really understand, for example, how the brain works, right? Which is very, you can measure brain waves. It's a very physical, tangible thing that you can measure. And it is scientific, so to speak. So psychologists pride themselves in studying behaviors in a measurable manner, that you can repeat things in a very controlled settings, for example. And yet there is no, black and white, right? So yes, your behaviors are exhibited based on, how you express it through your physical body, for example, how you exhibit a behavior. But the behavior is connected to what thought programmings are behind, the person, your life experiences, for example, how you think, how you feel. So we are not separated from, thoughts. We are the instruments that exhibit the emotions. And then there is the physical aspect of displaying, expressing those things. So I think in Western medicine, for example, we do a really, really good job in the physical aspect of things. We can have machines that are so fine-tuned to measure, let's say, your heartbeat and your brain waves. When you're stressed out, for example, your blood pressure may rise, and we can, somehow utilize technology or medication to control those conditions. I think it is important to treat that as part of a whole, which is also addressing what is causing the stress. And the emotions behind that needed to be expressed, not suppressed, so to speak, in a healthy manner, right? That something may be dormant through a very traumatic experience when you were 3-year-old, that is lodged into, a cellular memory, and you might have picked up a thought, process. Who, why, what you are, and why you do certain things. You have belief systems that will impact you on an unconscious level, right?
Yes.
When you're in a situation, you react to those situations based on how you were taught and what you have learned. And unless you address those things from a root level, you can remove the symptoms, but they may repeat in another person, and the pattern may repeat itself until you understand why you experience those things.
Right. So I know stress is one of the leading causes of all kinds of health problems
Absolutely.
that we suffer from. And a lot of people have stress. Well, how do you untangle something like that? You mentioned like if something happened that was traumatic when a person was 3.
Yes.
Well, someone's in their 40s and they know they've got a lot of stress.
Right.
And starting to see physical symptoms. How do you untangle all that?
Right. So first of all, being able to register as an instrument, your physical body that I am under duress, I am under stress is the number one thing. And usually that starts with holding our breath. when
Right.
we are stressed out. The body has a really amazing ability to tune everything out and go into the fight or flight mode, right? And that allows us to, pump the blood into our arms and legs, and so we can, run away from a situation.
Right.
Now, the only thing is, in our society, versus the hunter and gatherer, era when our ancestors are able just to run away from the animal that's chasing them, and then they release the stress during that exercise of running, and they come back into the neutral stance. Nowadays, we have work from, family, from work, from, whatever situation that you surround, even traffic, for example, relationships, and you are in the heightened state. Of stress consistently.
Yes.
You never, can come down fully back to your neutral state.
Yeah.
So having the awareness that, you're holding your breath, for example, we can always take a few deep breaths, allow yourself to come back to center, and then in that stillness, the gap between the breaths or the gap between the thoughts allow you to break that rhythm, break that cycle. And then you can say, this is what I'm experiencing. Is
Right.
that what I want to continue to experience?
Interesting. So these are the triggers.
Yes.
And becoming aware of it is obviously the first step.
The first step.
So you mentioned holding breath. That's interesting to me because I've noticed sometimes I do that. Especially if I'm nervous about public speaking.
Yes.
I tend to hold my breath and then my
Yes.
voice cracks and
Yes.
I don't see how it's beneficial.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Do you know why evolutionarily, why would someone hold their breath if they're under stress? What is the body trying to do?
You know what? I would the closest thing that I can think of is probably when we are holding our breath, it allows us to focus a little bit better. I don't know.
Maybe,
right?
yeah.
Maybe
And to be quiet.
right.
Maybe.
It goes into the mental faculty and you're processing information or
Right.
right.
I'm thinking too, maybe like a predator in the wild could hear the breathing.
Yes.
So you're trying to be as silent
As
as
still as
possible.
you can. That's a very good
Undetectable.
point. I never thought of it that way.
So
Yes.
yeah, because I've kind of wondered that long.
It would be interesting to do some research and study on, what is the cause of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So if a person becomes aware they're holding their breath or certain things are triggering them to
Yes.
feel stress.
Right.
So you mentioned like being stuck in traffic, we can't go for a run.
That's right.
So we're stuck and some people turn into rage, pound the fist on a dashboard or start trying to flip off the driver next to them because they need some kind of an outlet.
A release, yes.
So is exercise the solution to that?
Exercise definitely is a really good solution. Yes. So even just walking, the act of walking. But if you're stuck in traffic, take a few deep breaths.
Yeah, deep breaths.
Come back to center. Say, all is well.
Right.
I am safe. And do exercise. Sometimes when we are stressed, we just notice, okay, I have a headache and I'm breathing shallow and my heart is, not in the right place. And unfortunately, a lot of times people just take a pill, mask the symptom, tough it out, and carry on with the day. Right? And that's one way to deal with it. But the body can only take so much of it.
Yeah.
So the root cause of that stress needs to be addressed. Right? When you have enough sleep, when you are eating well, when you exercise regularly, your stress level tends to be lower than otherwise,
Right.
And so when you're recognizing that pattern, you can maybe, if you can't do those things for yourself, reach out for help, reach out for, other people who can help you.
Definitely. And there's a lot of methods that you use. You talk about Reiki, Therapeutic Touch.
Yes.
What's the difference, first of all, between Reiki and Therapeutic Touch? Because I thought that was the same thing.
They're very similar. Well, I would say just the names for different modalities.
Okay.
So therapeutic touch is, it's again, very scientifically taught. And the idea is any touch is therapeutic. So it's a systematic way of, using the touch as a therapy to help a person relax. Reiki is very similar. It's running on Ki is the life force, the Chi, the prana, so to speak. And again, it's a specific series of hand positions from head to toes to balance the energy field or centers of the body. So it can be directly touching the body or just above, or just hovering. It doesn't even need to be physical contact.
Really? Does that really work?
Yes. and actually, there is such a thing as distant Reiki sessions. So it's not limited by time and space, whereas therapeutic touch is, direct physical contact with the body.
Right.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference.
So is it true that with Reiki you're dealing with blockages in the Chi?
Yes.
And is it massage that gets the blockage out, or how do you release that?
Right. So a lot of people think that Reiki is a massage. It is not a massage. There are two different things. Massage definitely will release energy blocks, just by the sheer motion of, massaging the muscles and tensions, the fascia muscles, for example. And it's just that much more physical contact from a massage that, whatever is lingering around your tissues or fibers or bones, or, just hovering above your skin. Reiki can delve into a more subtle energy field. So, for example, in traditional Chinese medicine, we talk about meridians. So if your blood vessels are, for circulation of the blood, which is the physical aspect of your life force, expressed through blood, then Qi is the subtle energy of that. Let's say through the breath, you get the life force. And life force can be found in nature through, let's say, the water, the fire, the wood, metal, and earth, right? And air. So those are the life force is what gives us life, so to speak.
Yes.
Right.
Interesting. And what is access consciousness bars? What is that?
Yes. So there are points on our head region that we can, through accessing those points, will allow us to erase past thought programmings. Right. So that's a very condensed way of expressing that.
Do you have to ask a person a lot of questions, or can you just tell where the tension is?
Basically, it's a set number of points that you run through the person. You don't need to ask the person just by tuning into it. But the person definitely can express what he or she felt there is a blockage and wants to be released and let go. It is highly effective and very quick.
Right.
Yes.
So I think some of this is physical and some is psychological. And it's really hard to tell. Make a distinction. Like you notice with children, if they're stressed out, they might fidget, or they might, tense their shoulder in a certain way.
Yes.
And then I think that would manifest in a, muscle issue over time, right?
Yes.
But a person might have a muscle issue because they're sitting at the desk with bad posture.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So is there a difference between a muscle issue that is caused by a psychological factor versus just a environmental factor, where they're working in a factory, they're working at a desk and have bad posture? Is there a difference?
Yes. Very good question, Luke. I think you can look at this as a cycle, and one causes the other and vice versa. Okay. So let's say you are at a job that you felt obligated to go to work because it allows you to pay some bills and pay your rent and so on and so forth. It may not be something that is your passion, that you enjoy doing, but you felt like you needed to do it. So when you go to work, you already, enter the job site with a mindset that I don't actually enjoy doing this. So your physical body is not, free flowing, so to speak. It is structured in a way that is limiting your expression, so that may cause the stress, which in turn may cause the physical discomfort or disease, right? So if you were to correct that, you can possibly consider finding a job that is in alignment with your passion and remove yourself from that work site, which which in turn removes yourself from the physical structure that causes your back pain.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Right.
Now, a person could really love sports, for example, and they can
Yes.
still get a back injury.
Correct.
So that's different, though, than
Yes.
being in an environment that you're just not enjoying.
Yes. So there are many ways to approach why you do sports, right? Some people love the competitiveness of it, and you may exert the we call it the male aspect of your expression versus the female, which is the feelings, emotions, and intuition and creativity. Music, for example, language. The male aspect will be actually the doing, the performance,
Yes.
the concreteness of creating things. So you may feel like you want to really work your muscles and have a workout or whatnot. But if there is an imbalance between what we would call the yin and the yang, the male and the female aspect of your whole self, and then any this imbalance will create a discomfort
Right.
that will cause an not in alignment with your natural state of health.
Makes sense, yeah. And I've interviewed a couple of athletes or former athletes, and they got an injury,
Yes.
which caused them to have to end their career.
Yes.
And they actually went through a period of depression because their whole identity was tied up with being a hockey player.
Yes. And that is another very good point. A lot of times, people do things. I would think that we as a human, we come to this plane in this body to find ourselves. Who are we? Why are we here? What are we doing? What makes us happy? And how do we get there? Right? So I call these our cardinal questions.
Right.
Right? And sometimes you do something for so long, you lost sight of why you're doing it. What inspired you to do it in the first place? And maybe you're slightly off track, and your body is really just like a very wise instrument. It has a way of telling you, well, you know what, you're out of balance.
Right.
Through pain, through, disease and whatnot. And ideally, we are smart enough to take a break and tune in and
Right.
ask, what is it? Communicate with your body. This is what I teach my clients.
Interesting.
And say, what do I need to pay attention to in order to help me get better? Right.
You have so many interesting modalities of treating and helping people. When someone comes into your office or your clinic, is it a clinic or?
Yes, it's an office, yes.
Yeah. So if someone comes into your office, how does it work? Do you just ask them a series of questions or?
Yes. So most people, by the time they contact me, they already have very specific reasons of why they wanted to come and see me. And then having said that, oftentimes they refer to other people who have experienced, sessions with me. So how it works is each person coming in, they would tell me, well, I would like some clarity on, let's say, why are these things happening to me? They will involve some kind of an imbalance. My relationship was not working, or I really dislike my job. I don't know how to get out of it. And I've done everything, my family, everything. I've raised, my kids, they've gone, empty nester. But I don't feel fulfilled. What is it that I'm missing? Can you help me find that?
Interesting.
Yes. Or I have all these goals, but somehow something is blocking me from reaching them. Can you help me find those blocks?
Like even procrastination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And depending on what they tell you and your observations, then you're going to prescribe a treatment regimen.
Right. So if it is something physical, let's say the person came in with a really strong, sore back and just can't even sit, let alone having a discussion, I will address the physical symptoms first. I can relax the physical body with, let's say, Reiki, or any physical, discomfort. And by the time the body is able to relax, then the mind can process. Right. Then we would go into the counseling and we would tap into what I call their subconscious self and find out if there are any, blocks created by past thought programming. any belief systems that are not working. That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
I also am a psychic medium, and so I am a medical medium. I can actually tune into the cellular level on a subtle energy and find out where the blocks are that the person may not even be able to connect with,
right?
What the issues are, and find out what the root cause is. I can go into the subconscious and say, well, this happened when you were 3 years old, and your father had maybe, abandoned the family, and you never had reconciled that loss, or abandonment. And so you repeated patterns in your, let's say, relationships, right? And this needs to be addressed. And once that is cleared, then that person is able to just fly.
Right. Once they become aware.
Exactly.
But
and
it
then
can be pretty painful, though, to realize something.
Yes,
right?
yes. So this is where I come in as a counselor, as a therapist. I hold that safe space for them. So, okay, this is something that, oftentimes people have not told one single soul on this planet, and it's eating them up. Right? And it's not helping them. Just by verbalizing it and releasing it out of the system, that's the number one thing. And then we can understand the depth of that. What is the soul, for example, the spirit when you came in, these lessons that you have, wanted to learn. Let's say a lesson can be forgiveness. A lesson can be loving kindness and compassion.
Right.
Or just being strong, and you needed to go through a lot of tough lessons to become that strong in order to do the things that you came here to do, for example. So learning that, the person often is very relieved, to understand, finally, I knew something was blocking me. I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
So that's the first piece. And understanding why allows them to just go back and reconcile.
Right.
The behavior patterns or the emotions or the thought patterns that are not serving them.
If it's something very traumatic, does it usually take a person a matter of days or even months to process and maybe grieve?
It can. I found with my modalities, people are able to address all aspects, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all at the same time.
And fairly quickly.
Very quickly, usually within an hour and a half of a session, they went from a complete basket case, not able to function, and come out of it feeling, big smile on the face, I'm ready to conquer the world.
Wow.
It's really, really, gratifying to be able to see that. And sometimes it may take, everybody is different, maybe, a few sessions, and sometimes they will go home, process it, and, more will unfold. And, but I have seen people's lives and the families, when you change, everybody around you change, you see, and the life will be transformed from, 1 hour to 3 months to a year. Like, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And you mentioned you're also a psychic medium. Are the two things connected?
Absolutely.
So tell us, how does it work to be a psychic medium?
Okay. The best way I can say is I tap into, let's say, a person's energy field, and the energy field doesn't stop, where your physical body stops. It extends to, as far reach as your consciousness, so to speak, right? So tapping into that allows me to understand things that are beyond the physical. So I can see the sources of the emotional and the spiritual connection. And I also, as a medium or a channeler, I work with spirits from the other side. So oftentimes it's loved ones who've passed on, and they're able to deliver messages because they still want to help their family members heal and, have a successful life. Right. And they have that much more insighted perspectives. I work with angels. I work with spirit guides. Mostly I work with the higher self of that person. And that person will guide me as to what is most prevalent during the session. That person can help that person to move forward. Right. In a positive manner.
Interesting.
So if we think, let's say, as a human being, we embody all our ancestors, every single human being, to become this human being, obviously. Otherwise, we can be an elephant or a plant, right? So you, in your DNA, has all the information of every single human being.
Right.
Right? And then you, as a, whatever family name that you carry, your ancestors directly. That's why some people can, maybe have a predisposition of, really happy-go-lucky or depression, or you may have a, you may be prone to, let's say, a heart disease or, cancer, for example. So there are emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual inheritance in your DNA information. Right. And so when you allow that to be accessed, it gives you a lot of information that you can play around with. For me, energy doesn't stop in your physical world. There is no such thing in time and space. So past, present, and future are all accessible to me.
Right.
So I can tune into, okay, if you believe in incarnation, something happened maybe 3 lifetimes ago that, brought you to this junction.
Interesting.
And it may no longer serve you. And we may be able to release the contract that you have made 3 lifetimes ago. Right. To allow that block to be released. And these are unconscious and subconscious.
Right.
We have no access to it. Not on a daily basis.
Right.
But that gives you the depth of that session, of that treatment, of that therapy.
So you have this skill. Is this something that anyone can develop, and does it take a long time?
Everybody have access to that. We are born with that. Children, young children, toddlers, they are wide open. So you can see them seemingly, staring into light. They may be actually seeing fairies and angels and spirits. They can talk to animals. They can, they're very, very open. And we encourage them to play with unicorns and fairies. Right. Right. And there came a time, that may be shut down. It's like, okay, this is just children play, right? Adults don't do this. Right. That's just your imaginary friend. So depends on how, we're raised, that may get blocked off. Yeah. We all have access to it. It's just a muscle. So the best I can explain is if someone is trained to taste wine, they can tell the vintage, whether it's oak or, whatever the barrel is made of, or cheese or perfume, right? So smell, taste, hearing. Someone who's a musician can tune into notes that most of us don't really know what is. Right. Available.
Or don't notice.
Exactly. So these are muscles that we can actually train ourselves to do. And all of us have that. Right. Yes.
I want to ask you a little bit about addiction. I don't know how much experience you have, but so I've had family members that didn't have any apparent addictions and others that were severely addicted. But most people that I've encountered in my life are kind of somewhere in between. Yes. So, for example, someone who drinks too much, they may be able to function, go to work, and they have a reasonably peaceful family. Right. But it's something that they wish they did a little bit less. It's like a bad habit. Right. More than hardcore addiction. Yes. How does a person break out of habits? I used to bite my nails, which is not very attractive. And I heard someone say, when I slide a contract across the desk for someone to sign, I don't want to have the appearance of mangled. It's just not a good look, right? Right. It shows lack of self-control. So that was enough to kind of make me go, okay, I don't want to do that. Right. And one second. In a healthy way. Right. A lot of us can't get to that point. We're kind of, distracted. Yes. Yeah. That's a really good point, Luke. And I would say 99% of the reason why we don't achieve what we want to achieve is because we don't focus. Right. We are a very strong
human beings capable of doing anything and everything we want. And there are times when the situation arises and it calls for your undivided attention.
Right.
I'm going to give you a scenario. You watch, let's say, a heavy weight falling onto a baby, right? That requires, let's say, 4 people to lift up. When you see that situation, you are determined and you're focused and you have nothing else on your mind but to lift that off the baby.
Right.
To save the baby.
Yes.
And we have heard a lot of scenarios where people became superhuman.
Yeah.
And they have these abilities because you have a one point focused intention and mind, and all your energy is channeled into your body, and you lifted this thing, and at the end of it, people are congratulating you, you're a hero. And how many times you heard the same thing? I was just doing what I was guided to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It bypasses the mind. You see, and so what makes a person successful is that undivided attention, intention, right? Yes. Day in, day out. I live it, I breathe it, and this is all I wanted to achieve.
Yes.
And anything else that gets in the way is a distraction.
Yes.
And they will, find a way to let go of those.
I agree. And how do you get there? How do you get that kind of focus?
Okay.
Because we don't usually see,
yes.
I would love to have 5,000 people listening to this show.
Yes.
Right now I have about 100.
Right. Okay.
And I know basically the steps that I need to do, but I get distracted. So it's not as if something heavy fell out my child.
Yeah.
This is urgent. This is,
That's right.
Sole focus.
Yes.
How do I get that kind of focus?
Right. Well, it's a practice. Practice makes perfect. Okay. So all the people who have done it would tell you it takes discipline. Right. And you do that every single day. You wake up in the morning, you have a vision board, you put down a vision. A vision allows you to have a focus, just like a map, a destination, a goal. And knowing where you want to go is the first step. So for you, it's having, let's say, 50,000 listeners. Okay. That is the first step. And it almost requires you to put that into your vision board and say, so in order to do that, how many days a week do I need to, work? How many people do I need to contact? And you can break it down into short-term goal, midterm goal, long-term goal, right? And you will ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing that is in alignment with this goal? And everything else is not, obviously. Right. So if you have, let's say, this is the point when you ask, what is my belief system that tells me that I cannot be that? Right. So
a lot of times it's the belief that that's never going to happen.
That's right. When you learn how to ride a bike as a child, and you have training wheels in the back of your bike, right? The training wheels were always there. There was a moment, a pivotal moment when you decided, I no longer need it. And you could balance your bike without the wheels. Right? What is the difference between that moment and the moment before? Is your belief system. Right?
So true.
Yes. So you always had that ability. The ability is always within you. The potential is within you. It didn't change. It is your belief. So if you don't have that belief system, ideally you would surround people who believes in you.
Right.
Okay. So we have partners in believing. You say, I need you to support me unconditionally, 100%, regardless of what I do. You hold me accountable. That's really, really helpful. And if you witness in history, every successful human being always have a group of people around that person. Whether you're a CEO of a company, whether you are, Mandela, Martin Luther King, or JFK, or, you always have a group of people, because when we do that, we exponentially multiply the power of that belief system.
It's so true. That reminds me of a story that Mandela used to say about his father. His father was actually a tribal chieftain.
Yes.
And one of the things he learned just from observing was they'd have these tribal elder meetings, and his father always spoke last.
Right.
He said, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And he would always speak last. And in the West, I noticed if someone wants to show they're a leader, they speak up first.
Right.
And they did it the total opposite way. And he was completely respected and considered very, very wise.
Right.
And that was just one thing that he observed as a child. So, but that's a really good point, because we think of Mandela as this icon, kind of a self-made, amazing person.
Yes.
But when we hear the stories of his father and the people he was surrounded by, really helped to shape him.
If you want to be a strong person, you need to be surrounded by strong people.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that's number one. And number two, you are only as good as your instrument. Your instrument is your body, is your mind, is your spirit. You have a strong mind that allows you to focus a lot better. So how do we get there? Aside from, really discipline yourself to visualize your vision and say, this is what I want, without a doubt. And anything that is preventing you from that is fear. Fear is keeping you away from it, right? Then you will have to, let go of that. This is your garden. Your garden of life. And we need to cultivate, we plant the seeds, we need to cultivate that, we need to fertilize it, we need to weed the garden, anything that is not conducive to the growth of that plant.
Makes sense.
Right? And it takes time to grow from a seed to a tree.
Definitely.
Right. So
yeah, I always say to people, like, what we feed our minds on is so important. It's even more important than the food we eat, because I think if our mind is right, we're going to make better food choices.
Absolutely.
But it's like it deals with motivation, laziness, enthusiasm, optimism, like what we're feeding our brains
what
with.
Are we feeding ourselves? Our self-talk, for example. How we communicate to ourselves, how we communicate to others about our goals and dreams, how we allow other people to communicate to us about our goals and dreams.
Right.
And our self-worth.
Yeah.
Very important. Very important. True. Because all of those are energetic vibrations that you introduce into your energy field. Definitely. So your instrument is your brain. Your instrument is your physical body. Taking care of your physical body. You mentioned eating the right food. This is your fuel. If you pump Supreme, fuel is going to be better than regular. Obviously, right?
Yeah.
And exercising, clearing. We talk a lot about clearing your energies. We take a physical shower every morning, or afternoon. But do you stop there? If you go have a workout and you sweat, you come back, you have another shower.
Right.
So we take inventory and clear our energy field. It's like, okay, is this conducive to my well-being? Am I feeling peaceful? Am I feeling joyous?
Yes.
Am I feeling, happy? Am I in harmony with where I want to go? And if not, then we need to clear those energies.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. What advice would you give to young people who are confused about, if you say, well, what's your vision? What do you want to accomplish? Say, I don't know.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Good question. Number one suggestion is that you're always in the right place at the right time. Okay, you cannot help but be. You may not have the vision or the wisdom to see that you are. Sometimes we go through experiences that seemingly are painful, that are actually a stepping stone to help us build those muscles that we will need later on in life to achieve what we came here to do.
So true.
So have faith, have trust that your higher self, your inner wisdom, you have the answers to everything that you will ever need. Other people are there to guide you, but always trust your instinct. Take time to cultivate a relationship with yourself and listen to yourself. You have an inner wisdom and inner voice.
Yeah.
And when you focus on that, anything and everything you do will be vibrationally in alignment to attract those people, events, places, experiences to come into your life, to allow you to flow freely to the direction that you're supposed to do.
And I try to tell my girls to experiment with a lot of things that are positive things. So try to interact with the people from all different walks of life, but who are positive and encouraging. And when you leave them, you feel better than you did when you first met them.
That's right.
And they could, could be a doctor, it could be a musician, it could be any type of person, but that has that kind of positive spirit.
Yes.
So.
They're very fortunate to have that upbringing from their dad.
I try. I've definitely improved. So when I had my first daughter, I was 35, and I was basically a party animal.
Yes.
Right. Didn't really take too many things seriously until I had my daughters. So
it kind of refocused your
definitely.
life. Yes.
And it's been a learning process because I didn't have the best guidance myself.
Right.
Since I was a young teenager, I had very little parental supervision. They would send me to boarding school.
Right.
But I found, creative ways to get around the rules and escape detection. And so for me, it was all about what can I get away with, and it wasn't like violence or, anything really bad, but just like, how can I break the rules? How can I pass this test with the bare minimum effort?
Right.
Not what could I learn?
Working smart, not hard.
Right. Yeah.
So you had in mind, right?
So, to be a good father was a lot of learning.
Right.
Readjusting.
Yes.
My thinking. So.
Yes. So having that flexibility, I think you actually learned it without even understanding it. Perhaps you came here to break the protocols, to revamp the systems that are not working anymore, but you learn the rules enough to break them.
Right, exactly.
to create something better.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a visionary.
Right.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's nice.
I really appreciated this opportunity, and I feel oftentimes people just needed to have access to a program like yourself to understand there are a lot out there that's being offered that they can take advantage of. So if they have exhausted everything in their life on a physical level, know that there are other aspects of yourself that can be addressed,
right?
And to bring in the life that you dream to live, the life that you deserve to live.
How do people get in touch with you?
Yes, so they can either contact me through my phone, so 250-215-6380. My website is www.lifeforcechannel.com, and my email is lifeforcechannel@gmail.com. And I would love to touch base with anyone who's ready to explore and find out how they can live a life they truly deserve to live.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And who would you like to nominate to come on the show?
Good question. I was really hoping you would ask. I would love to nominate Crystal Russell.
Okay.
And she's the owner of Chai Baba. It's a tea store in downtown on Ella Street. And her mission is to serve tea, a cup of love at a time, to change the community.
Nice.
So, yes.
Wonderful. I've gotten
Chai Baba?
Yeah, I've gotten tea there a couple of times. When I used to live in that part of town.
Yes.
But it's been a few years, so I'd love to talk to Crystal.
Yes, they have expanded the store to double the size. And
Nice.
when you walk in there, you can just feel the positive vibrations and the love.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Regina. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Luke.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Newtown Big Dreams podcast with your host, Luke Menkes, and his authentic guests. And we love our listeners and hope you subscribe now to learn more about the amazing journeys of our incredible guests who relocated to find a new town, big dreams. And remember, make your dreams big.